We're gonna get rolling with this. So where we're at right now is on the second video of our Rebuild the Temple series that we have going on here the first 4 weeks of the year. And this one is all about food, diet, what we should be eating. There's a lot of mistruths, half-truths, misconceptions, and really, when I've dug through this since, well, 2008 was really the first time I got introduced into some of the science behind eating well, if you will. Since I started diving into this, there's been one particular diet style that has been consistently putting out the best results as far as I can tell in the world of research. And there's different variations of this diet, and we're going to dive into that a little bit as we move forward. But I think we should start by really evaluating, why is this diet thing so important? And I believe that, let's see, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. Diet's critical. You are what you eat. We've heard that throughout our entire lives, right? And, human beings have a specific diet we are supposed to be eating. And the way that we look at it in terms of health of an individual, we have to relate everything back to stress. If you can remember from the last workshop, we talk about physical, chemical, emotional stress. This would be in the realm of chemical stress. Now, here's the deal. The person who's able to adapt to stress in the most efficient manner possible is going to typically be the one who remains the healthiest. It's all about being able to adapt, baby. And I got a question for you, like with diet, this is something that we absolutely have control over. And, it doesn't come without challenges for sure. But when we look at external stress that our body has to deal with, this is one that in my opinion, definitely have the most control over. Now, if you're going to be, if you're going to have to, your body's going to have to deal with stress every day, regardless of who you are. Some of that stress makes it stronger. Some of it makes it weaker, but in the end, the one who adapts the best wins. And why would you want to create an extra stress load on your body, which then reduces your ability to handle some of the other stress that's going on in life? And, so just a thought coming in. If you can remember from our last session that we had where we talked about our beliefs triangle and identifying this, I think it's important when you are trying to figure out which diet works best for you. I think it's important to just pay attention to, what your body tells you as you're moving forward, because the reality of it is that everybody's just a little bit different. Even though we all have, we're all human beings, right? We should all be eating like human beings, their ideal foods. But when it comes down to breaking it down, like what specific foods, like, can I eat spinach? Can I eat kale? Can I eat carrots? Can I eat, certain foods right now? Some people are more sensitive to them than others. And, fine tuning and finding what works out good for you is really going to be the key. Okay. So what does diet all create? Well, I can tell you, like, what science shows us is that the conventional side of this, so the diets that we're typically eating in the United States, are really going to be more of a high inflammatory diet. Now, what's that mean? Well, what it means is that, when your body goes through different stages of healing, say tissues, tissues are constantly breaking down and building back up and all of that. And that's how our bodies maintain a good, healthy state, is being able to handle that and adapt and build, basically healthier cells. But what we'll find with particularly the Western diet, okay, so the typical American diet, is that it creates insulin resistance. Okay, we're way too high on sugars. We're way too high on grains and processed sugars and grains and things like that. Right now, that makes up about 40% to 55% of a lot of American diets is these highly processed foods. When your body becomes insulin resistant, what that means is that the cells of your body do not like to talk to insulin anymore. And insulin is really known for being the carrier and basically helps get sugar in and out of cells, right? So we look at insulin as being a sugar carrier, but really insulin is there's not a single hormone in the human body that the insulin doesn't directly affect or control. So this insulin resistance issue is a big issue. That's why with current recommendations, so I'm not really sure what the USDA has out there for food recommendations, like what their delivery system on telling us what we should be eating is. But I can tell you that back in 2005, they switched up from the original pyramid. The original food pyramid, I'm sure a lot of you that remember that start this can remember, it actually happened in 1992 is when the original food pyramid came out. And at the bottom of that pyramid, we had basically at the bottom rank, so basically the foundation of our diet, what was recommended at that time was bread, cereal, rice, and pasta. Basically your grain group would be on the bottom. And then right above that, split into two sections, we would have, well, they wanted 6 to 11 servings of basically grain is what they were recommending back in 1992. That then changed, or that the next level up on that food pyramid was our vegetable group and our fruit group. They were in there together, and they wanted 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, 2 to 4 servings of fruit. That one actually, that's not so bad there. And then right above that, we had basically our dairy group, our milk, yogurt, and cheese group, and that's 2 to 3 servings a day is what they wanted. And then our food, our meat, poultry, beans, eggs, nuts, things like that. And then on the very, very top, they had under used sparingly, they had the fats and the oils and sweets way up top. So that was the original food pyramid in 1992. Now, what I wanted to screen share with you, but I am unable to do that, is actually, you know what? I'm going to print these off and show you. I can do that, I'm pretty sure. It appears that this camera is not making everything in reverse, so that's cool. So I can actually show you these. So I'm going to print these slides off. It'll only take a second, and then I'll just hold them up so that you can see what's happened. Because have you ever really thought about where your dietary behaviors came from and where your beliefs about what you're supposed to eat, where that comes from? This food pyramid guide, I remember being taught it in school. And again, it came out in 92. Before 92, before the food pyramid, it was the 4 food groups. You can remember that one. I can remember that one slightly. But I want to show you this because this is impactful. I know that the basis for these food pyramids are not really, the goal of them was not to necessarily create health, because there's no healthy science behind the recommendations that they've made. So hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. It is coming out. We are getting it printed. It's just not quite completed yet. But so what I'm printing out right now is the CDC has some demographic, basically a map of the United States with each individual state. And on that state, they have ratings of obesity rates. And they started collecting this information back in 1985. And it took until, let's see, it took until basically 1994 before all 50 states got on board with giving this information up to the CDC, or either that or just coming up with a means to actually collect the information. So I want to show you what that looks like. Okay. So let's see, 1994. Here we are, 1994. This was the first year. This was the first year that they started collecting that information. Now, if someone could write in the comments on whether that's showing up properly or not, that'd be awesome. Like, is it backwards or you got that? We can see that? It's not backwards? Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up. That's cool. All right. So notice like there's a light blue and there's a dark blue. We got 15 to 19%. What in the dark blue section, that's the percentage of that population that is obese. Now, that was 1994. Remember the original food pyramid that came out was 1992. So we go 90. We're gonna buzz through this pretty quick, but just look at this here. So here's 94. Here's 95. Okay, see the increase in the dark blues? And then we have 96. Okay, follow with me here. This is, now we're starting to gain traction on that food pyramid. It's starting to be taught in schools now for a few years. Am I wiggling it too much? Here we go. This one? Oh, it's printed front to back, so I'm sorry. But notice how there's a new category there. This is the first now that they started categorizing. There is enough over 20% that they're going to start keeping track of the populations that are over 20% obese. That was 97, and there was 3 states. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here in 98, if I hold them all up, you won't see through it as much. 98. Now look at that. We got 7 states. I'm not going to count the states anymore, but just watch what happens here. See the obesity is going up. 1999. So it's still going up. So, and that trend just goes up and up and up here. Let's see. We got a little bit more in 2000, but 2001, look at, we got another new category here. We got above 20%. So, and then bear with me there because I want to show you what happens here. 2002, we got a couple more states that are up there in the 25+% range. And then we have 2003, we got another one jumping on board. All right, hold on, 2004. Now we got, look at 2004, woo, we're blowing up now. There's 25%. Sorry, there we go. Can you see that? The darker orange is the 25+. All right. So here's what, so now something happened 2004, 2005, like, 92 was supposed to be that heart healthy diet. That's why they started doing that. That was more of a heart healthy diet. What they want to do is try to curb heart disease, and it didn't work. Heart disease skyrocketed when all this went on. But 2005, we got a new food pyramid. So look at that one. Now we're going, instead of having a foundation, they're saying a little bit of each, right? So a little bit of each. But here's what's interesting. When you look at the biggest categories, so we got like, where this, I'm just trying to make some sense onto where this comes from. And it has a lot to do with some of the, like, the Department of Agriculture, for sure, the USDA, right? So, but the Department of Agriculture, we see a lot more grains. Under the oils, like the fats, they're what they consider to be healthy fats, the oil groups. They want their oils from fish, good, nuts, good, and then liquid oils such as corn, soybean, and canola oil. What we know now is that that's not so good. But anyway, so that was 2005. Now watch what happens let's see, 2005. So who knows if this was a direct result of that or not. But now we have 3 more states that are 30 and above. Those are the red states. So we can see how that goes up a little bit more there. Okay. And then as we move on, 2006, let's see another, and then well, we're gonna fast forward through this. I know we got some color changes and things like that, so bear with me. But here we go. Now is the last slide I have is the 2012. Notice they're all different colors, but right now we only have 0 states with less than 20%. Zero states less than 20% obesity. Look at all the states that we have with, can you tell, with 30, that's not the right, with 30 to 35%. So anyway, point being was a lot of that had to do with, you know, following recommendations. So you got to look and see, okay, where do these recommendations come from? So again, but that's the Western diet. That's what is the state of our union. Now, I should note too that these obesity trends, those were based on BMI, which is basically how tall are you, how much do you weigh. It doesn't have anything else. It doesn't consider like, you know, how fit you are, how much muscle mass you have, and things like that. It's just simply, you know, how heavy we have become. And so when we look at this, I'm willing to bet that most people that are actually evaluating their diet and wanting to make changes in their dietary behaviors, it has to do with, in most cases, probably weight loss. And I think we should expand our horizon on that and not look at weight as necessarily being the problem, but we can also include other health factors like, you know, are you waking up achy every day? Our current dietary plan here in the States is going to make you really heavily overloaded in omega-3 fats. We're going to have a lot of sugars, going to create more stress hormones. But what that ultimately does is it drives up inflammation in the body. And when you wake up and you have those mild aches and pains and you're dealing with those types of issues on a regular basis, a lot of times that's because your body is more pro-inflamed, pro-inflammatory issues. Another very common health result of the way that we're currently eating is autoimmune types of issues. So that's, you know, that can come down to autoimmune types of issues where your body is actually, you know, attacking itself in terms of creating inflammation in joints and things like that for the aches and pains, but also a lot of dietary allergies, autoimmune basically your immune system is not, it's not working ideally. Okay. We do a lot of things on a regular basis in society, generally speaking, that is terrible for our immune systems. And you know, that's a critical component to keeping us healthy. We actually, it's the immune system issue is so important that we have a separate class for that. So I'm not going to dive too deep into that one here today, right now on this call. But moving forward here. So when we look at this, if it's a weight loss thing, you know, we want to, a lot of times we weigh too heavily on exercise. Exercise is important, movement's important, all of that, it's for sure important, especially having stability and flexibility in the body, in the spine and the joints of the body, and just really being more functionally and structurally stable. And then, of course, moving joints is important as well. But if you are choosing an exercise routine because you want to lose weight, but you're not paying much attention to your diet, then it's just not going to happen very well. It's not going to work out very well for you. The reason being is, like, if we were just to look at the amount of calories in a small, say, muffin, if you're going out for breakfast and you're at your favorite coffee shop and you pick a muffin and it's 350 calories for that muffin, and you say, that's okay, I'm going to work out later, I can burn it off. Well, if you were to be weightlifting as a way to burn it off, you would need to lift weights for 1 or for an hour and 15, or wait, almost 2 hours, 115 minutes of lifting weights to burn off the calories of one muffin. If you're like a gardener, you just want to get out, kind of move around, and you're doing some gardening, 66 minutes of gardening. So look at that. You're burning more calories gardening than you are lifting weights, at least through that activity, not necessarily what happens after the fact. Mowing the lawn would be 66 minutes. Going for a nice, easy bicycle ride, we're looking at 92 minutes of exercise to burn off that 350 calories. And if you're like a jogger, if you want to go for a little run, you're going to have to jog for at least 33 minutes just to get that extra 360 calories burnt off. So keep that in mind, that exercising only, it's beneficial for a lot of other reasons, but in terms of like more so hormonal, like exercise is better for like balancing out your hormones and things like that. But from a pure weight loss standpoint, other than the hormonal aspect of weight loss, from a pure calories in versus calories burned standpoint, exercise is not a good strategy to make up for bad dietary choices. So let's look at the macronutrient profile before we start getting into the goods of what we should be eating. And it's going to be so basic that I'm afraid that some of you might be like, oh, well, I already knew that. Well, you probably already have known that. But when we look at our macronutrient profile, so this is where we look at like the amount of carbs, the amount of proteins, the amount of fats. This part of the dietary equation, if you will, has really been getting tweaked a lot lately. I'm gonna tell you right now, the closest like diet that you can research that is in line with the one that the stuff that I'm basing this workshop or this class off of is the Paleo diet. We got to look at the way that our body is used to basically behaving and eating and digesting. And we look at that. We can't look back just 2, 3, 4 generations. We've been walking the planet Earth as a human species for a very long time. So we have basically from the scientific community, what they say is about 10,000 years ago is where we started doing this agricultural. We're basically, we stopped traveling around to gather our food, and we started just like planting and growing and handling food. So the agriculture started about 10,000 years ago. And in the scientific community, some suggest that we've been walking the planet for millions of years. So you look at that from a pure genetic standpoint, it takes a long time for our genes to actually change. When we do this and we look at eating an ancestral diet, which is what I'm suggesting we do, is we eat real food. I mean, that's it. When I say we eat real food, that means that we eat the food that we can go out and we pick in our garden. And we eat the animals that are eating the healthy food that we don't have time to walk around and gather. Okay. So you want to eat good, healthy meat, and you want to eat plants and fruit. And that's about it. I mean, if you could cut down to just eating those 3 things, it would be a game changer for all of us. When we eat meat, we want to look at eating meat as grass-fed meat. Fat's known as the bad guy in the dietary world. Historically, over the last probably 20, 30, 40 years until now. And now we're looking at, okay, most of us are probably either fat deficient or we're toxic in unhealthy fats because of the food pyramid, where we're just loaded up on omega-6 types of fats and oils. And really what we want to do is we want to be eating and getting the fat from like grass-fed beef, for instance. The makeup of the fat content in grass-fed meat is different. It's a different type of fat than if it was grain-fed. Okay, your grain-fed beef is going to have a lot more omega-6 dominancy to it, where your grass-fed is going to have a better balance of 6 and 3s in there. So it's just by nature, it's healthier fat. Okay. The proteins that we get that's where it's at, and then the fats should be from the meat and the fish, and from like nuts, the good healthy fats there. And then the carbohydrate load should come from just simply fruits and vegetables. If we could cut out grains, we could probably solve a lot of issues with autoimmune types of issues and things like that. This is something that you're going to want to play with, though. On your own, because it's a diet. It's not fat. There's so many fad diets out there that just put you on a roller coaster. But what I'm suggesting we try to do is you try to incorporate a foundational eating style that just makes things easier rather than harder. So hopefully that part of it makes sense to you. And I know it's probably not as groundbreaking and shaking as what you would like. But just to give you an example of what like a micronutrient profile looks like. So micronutrients, those are your like vitamins and minerals and things like that our body needs to function at its best. When we compare this paleo style diet to our contemporary, so contemporary diets are, basically what we're doing in the States here. When we look at that, so B2 is 3.5 to 1. We have more vitamin B2, 3.6 times more vitamin 2 or B2 in our diet, paleo versus contemporary. We look at folate, right? I'm not talking folic acid. I'm talking about B9, the folate, not the manufactured folic acid, but this is the one that's important for like pregnancies and things like that. We're looking at 1.5 to 1. So 1.5 times more folate if you're eating more paleo style. Vitamin B1 is 2.5 to 1. Vitamin C, you get 8.3 to 1. So we're taking in a lot less vitamin C right now. Something interesting about vitamin C and how it relates to, how it relates to, say, immune function. So vitamin C is important to kick off the immune system, just as a side note. But the problem is that a lot of times, even now, if we have fully sufficient levels of vitamin C in our system, it's still not going to work as well for us because we have way too much glucose circling in our body. And vitamin C and glucose itself, like sugar, vitamin C and sugar are almost molecularly identical. So they basically interfere with each other in terms of activating the immune system. So just kind of keep that in mind, that as a vitamin C thing. So you get a double whammy on vitamin C. We're getting 8 times less than what we probably should just through our diet. And then we're toxic or heavy on sugars, so that makes it even less effective. Keratin, 1.7 to 1. Vitamin A, 2.7 to 1. Vitamin E, 3 to 1. Now, when we look at on the other end, here's a big one: fiber, getting that digestive tract working properly. When we look at our fiber intake, we are at 6.9 to 1. So basically we're almost 7 times, we're taking in 7 times less fiber than what the healthiest people on the planet take in, which I find, to be fairly interesting, right? So we want to try to keep our bodies well. We're going to need more fiber, keep things moving along properly. So that's just a really quick version of a 2-hour class that I host in the office. I just wanted to give you the basics. So just as a recap here's what we're looking at. You basically, from a dietary standpoint, find out like what macronutrient profile works best for you. So that's the proteins versus fats versus carbohydrates. And when you're getting your fats, carbs, and sugar, and fats, carbs, and proteins, when you're getting those in your diet, get it from healthy food, healthy meat, Okay, grass-fed meat. Eat the animal that's out there eating the food that it was designed to eat. Way healthier to eat the healthy animal that's out eating the things that we don't have time to run and forage for and pick and eat ourselves. And then your fruits and veggies. Okay. As an offshoot, I think it's valuable to be able to have some resources to go to. So if you have any specific questions or concerns or thoughts about what you're working on with yourself, then please feel free to send me a message, contact me. I can point you in the right direction. There's some good local resources, some ladies doing some good things in the community when it comes to diet. Otherwise, if you'd like to just kind of go it yourself, there's some good information out there on the interwebs. Information's easy to come by. It's just trying to understand what information you should be believing. One of my favorite new podcasts is, I'm going to make a plug for a podcast that I've been listening to called the Paleo Solution. What's interesting in that podcast is they break it down into the different variations of the diet. So we have paleo, and then you have your low carb paleo or your ketogenic style diet. It's all based in the same diet style, this ancestral eating. It's all based into that same concept. You just have different macronutrient profiles. And some people do really well with some and others do not. So that's where you got to start playing the game yourself. When first things first, take it easy, just start eating real food. Okay, that's something that I'm working on. It's a challenge, especially the way grocery stores are put together. Right, win your battles there. I used to be able to win my battles there a little more effectively than I am now. So that's something that we're focusing a little more effort into. My word of the month again is we got some tears, we got some mad faces, we got all sorts of good stuff coming up here. But my word for the year, my focus word for the year is consciousness. I'm trying to bring consciousness to the actions that I take in life. So act more consciously and win your battles where they're easier to win, and that's at the grocery store. So be in touch. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, then feel free to send us a message. We're here at Family First Chiropractic Wellness Center. We're here, really, me and Dr. Jenny and Casey. We're here to provide you with excellent chiropractic care, of course, but also to be able to point you in a direction to receive resources if you need more help with dealing with some of these other stressors that are in your life. Then feel free to reach out, ask the questions that are on your mind, and we have no problems being a resource for you. So please do that. And stay tuned. Next week, we're going to dive more into the movement aspect of things and get into the science of movement. So have a wonderful day, and talk to y'all later.